Mokuroku number 37. Going to be jumping the gun a little bit here. Going to be actually producing the video before I write up the Mokuroku text. What I want to talk about is concepts of physics in relation to your balance, and we're going to focus particularly on KempoJutsu in this case. Okay? Basically, when your body moves, your appendages are part of your trunk. The more they extend from the trunk, the more there is resistance. Resistance such as friction, resistance such as having to control the extra force needed to control your arms and to some degree your legs. The important thing in this case is your arms, because you will find distancing makes sense from a physiological standpoint, not just simply from a technical standpoint, and I'll explain that. When you're moving and you have your arms down around your waist, you're in a position where your arms really, in terms of all the forces that apply, do not require a lot of extra energy to control. If you look at some of the greatest fighters, oftentimes their hands would be down by their waist when they could be. This was often thought to be a way to mock your opponent or to show a lack of skill. However, the fact of the matter is that's all dependent on your distance. And when you're controlling distance, you always want to be as efficient as you possibly can be with your own controls, okay? Whether they be your arms, okay, a weapon, okay? So when we look at distance and we look at 3 foot to your opponent, sometimes called sword length, at the outer range of that 3 foot distance, let's have a line here, and we'll say from the hand, which is close to my head here, if I put it right in my midline, okay, that's where the kill shot for the opponent is, okay? Extending from that 3 feet outwards, okay? At that distance, if we go to the far end of that, having our hands in a position where they're not necessarily up here can be beneficial, okay? Because I don't need the energy of having to keep my hands up here. Also, it gives me mobility, and it gives me a lot more flexibility in terms of strategic possibilities, all right? So when we compound that with movement itself, so for example, I'm stepping or I'm moving in some sort of a direction of a sort, it becomes even more important, okay? Because if my arms are relaxed, my movement will be relaxed. So for example, you can see my waist. If I'm here, really, my arms, even from the elbow here, are part of my trunk, okay? There's no need at this point to be here, okay? If I'm, on the other hand, right at kill zone, I can address that by having my hands sort of come more up as I come closer to that distance, okay? Or I can simply understand that I'm at that range and act accordingly, okay? At any rate, though, hands here, okay, requires a little bit more energy and a little bit more having to exercise control over the hands, okay? So this should only be done when it's necessary. If I'm out here at the far end of that range, if I have a sword, it doesn't matter, whatever the case may be, or if I have a guard up, okay? Then if you notice in the old guard positions in Ichimonji no Kama and Jumonji no Kama, they usually are done here, okay? From here. You don't see this so much, okay? Because of that principle, okay? It should be a natural extension where your elbows are coming in and they're simply resting at the appropriate place, okay? This way, my movement is unimpeded, okay? Until I come closer, and then I make the adjustments that I have to, okay? So, particularly with KempoJutsu, when we're dealing with boxing range, okay, where somebody can hit you with a quick shot, it becomes necessary to have your hands up and to be aware of where your shoulder is to protect your chin, okay? So, for example, very important here, okay? If I'm doing a movement like this, okay, to catch here, so maybe I'm trying to deflect my way in to hit, okay, and boom, boom. This should come up right to about here, so that anything that comes through catches me here and not here, okay? That's your distance, just so you can see, and just here and not here, because this can hit you. This is protected now, okay? So being aware of things like that. If I'm coming this way, being aware of keeping the elbow coming at this angle, okay? So I don't try to do this, which is not the same as moving to a deflectionary type of position, okay? Deflections are repositioning movements, okay? They're different. You don't stop like you're blocking. And if you're here, you're maintaining a position, okay, of strength. That's not really blocking, okay? That's why I say, you'll hear me say this a lot, we don't have blocking. There's no such thing, okay? This is not a block, okay? It's an attack on the arm, okay? If I'm hitting your arm with this technique, it's to try to damage your arm. It's, again, not to block, okay? Because blocking is a defensive movement, a defensive mindset, and it'll lead to a rabbit hole of really bad habits that we're naturally inclined towards, okay? We don't want to get our hands dirty. We don't want to go and grab the guy with a knife. And the problem is that when you get into this idea of, I'll just block his attacks, you will get killed when you deal with somebody who's really trying to harm you, okay? And even more so if they have a bladed weapon, particularly, okay? You have to learn to get inside to where the person is, up close and personal, past the arc of where they're striking. You have to learn what parts of the hand to control and where to hit the person to stop their process, okay? None of that lends itself to blocking, okay? If you tell me that you have a situation where you can smash this way, that's fine. This should lead directly to something else. These movements, they're reflexive movements, okay? This is going right into the person's face, and this is always here. The reason I do this is because from this distance, okay, if something attacks me suddenly, and I can just teach myself to put that hand out there, you'll catch the person in the face as they're punching without even being aware of it, okay? That comes as a consequence of understanding your distances, okay? Being aware when you're in close, the things you have to do, and the things you don't have to do when you're not in close, equally important, Okay? Arms at the waist gives you the most mobility. Okay? Elbows slightly in, so you're not doing this, handicapping yourself. You're not a bird, okay? So when you practice your KempoJutsu, particularly, understand and try to really be conscious of your distance and where your hands are in relation to your opponent, okay? Os.